Let's see what we got.
And so our story begins. Before it's over, we hope you will never forget it.
It starts with a chance encounter.
August 23rd, 87.
Three hikers are backpacking their way through the densely wooded terrain of the Colorado Rockies, when, through the heavy brush, one of them would notice something bizarre hanging from the trees. It almost looked like a bunch of thin black vines, growing from the stems and overtaking this one particular branch, though it clearly didn't seem to belong there. As the closer they got, the more the object appeared to be man-made, which was confirmed by the sight of a horrifying discovery lying directly beneath it.
Oh,
dropped
shit.
there in the middle of the woods was the remnants of a small aircraft, one that had been there for...
Hold on, this said not an actual photo of the wreckage, none are publicly available. TMK to my knowledge, I'm assuming.
Of the woods was the remnants of a small aircraft, one that had been there for what seemed like years, judging by the rust and decay.
Goddamn.
And it wasn't just the craft itself that was in an awful state of decomposition, but also the two bodies within it. It was a heartbreaking scene, and a confusing one as well, as when officers arrived, the cause of the wreck wasn't immediately clear, and the possibility of this crash going without explanation seemed very real, had it not been for those ribbon-like vines hanging overhead.
So, like, in reality,
those strange objects were actually the remnants of a VHS tape, with its case being cracked open and its contents scattered about the area. And inside the craft itself were pieces of a broken camera,
to think about.
Introducing the possibility that the two men inside may have been filming at the time of impact. And so, despite that exposed footage being out there in the elements for an extended period of time, it would be painstakingly pieced together and resurrected, revealing the following footage.
Oh shit, this is wild. This is insane.
On board the airplane had been 36-year-old pilot James Cadell, who had been taking his friend Ronald Wilmond for a flight from Granby to Jeffco, two regional airports in central Colorado near the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, which explains the breathtaking scenery that's so apparent throughout the footage. Throughout the 6-minute recording, we hear brief moments of monologue from James as Ronald sits behind him soaking in the view.
Right.
Oh, look at that down there, Ronnie, on the left.
Until this moment.
Oh,
the moment that, by many accounts from aviation experts, forever sealed the fate of the plane and its two occupants.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
All around them were tall mountains, which, despite looking beautiful, were soon going to become obstacles for the pilot, as due to something known as density altitude, the small aircraft would not have been able to climb to a higher altitude with enough time to avoid them. Though strangely, nothing is mentioned by James about this unfolding reality, leading some to theorize that he was distracted by the view, and maybe even looking downward at the pristine lake.
Hold on, I need to clarify this. The altitude in the standard atmosphere at which air has the same density as the air at the point in question. The altitude in the standard atmosphere at which air has the same density as the air at the point in question. For example, if an airport whose elevation is 500 MSL, I don't know what that unit is, has reported density altitude of 5,000 feet, an aircraft operating to and from the airport will perform as if the airport elevation were 5,000 feet. Okay, so it's just like a different density than what would normally be believed to be where they were. That's interesting. I've never heard of that phenomenon.
Well, the mountain crept closer and closer. It's painful once you realize the predicament they're in, as the closer they get to those mountains, the less chance they have at maneuvering around them. And by the time they do realize, it's already much too late.
That's interesting. So I'm assuming here that, like, the density is much less than what they think it should be, so the air can't get enough lift, is what I'm assuming, because he said he can't go higher in the amount of time that it would take. Sorry for pausing it, just... Oh shit.
Damn, hang on, Ronnie!
No, that's it. Done.
Recognizing their plight of certain death ahead, James was forced to attempt a nearly impossible U-turn, which ultimately would stall the plane, sending them careening to the fast-approaching ground below, where the footage cuts out moments before impact, ending the lives of these two friends in an instant.
You'd think it would cut out during impact. Would sit
for over 3 years until those backpackers just so happened to take that same route.
Goddamn.
Today, the video is used as a teaching lesson for so many up-and-coming pilots, as countless schools across the country show the tape to their students in the hopes of preventing a similar tragedy. But evidently, the film has also found a home in the depths of this very site, where it has come to be known as one of YouTube's darkest videos.
For once again, he has come face to face
with the lead off with 100%.
Density altitude.
Density altitude, though. It's so strange to me that I've never even heard that.
Here it is.
Chapter 2, Under the Tree.
All yours. Now, who is left?
It was only the 22nd of December in the year 1990, but that didn't stop Vaughn Taylor from kicking off the holiday early, as he sat by the tree pulling out gift after gift and opening them in front of an old VHS camera.
I think that looks familiar.
Behind that camera was Edward Deli, a longtime companion of Vaughn who seemed adamant on filming his friend's reaction to the presents.
How come your light flashing on the film that? I don't know. Find out. How am I supposed to find out? And Renee. Come on, pass that. What is it? Baseball card. Okay.
The video is a bit awkward, as the two momentarily bicker about the camera recording, and Vaughn hardly seems to acknowledge or show any sort of gratitude in response to the gifts he's receiving.
That's weird.
But it's seemingly nothing too out of...
I fucking hate that about Christmas. I don't know if anyone else is the same way, but I fucking hate Christmas anyway, because literally everything ever in my life that's ever been bad has happened at Christmas, which has been quite a bit. But like, you have to go and like, you have to smile and pretend, and you have to be like, oh yeah, I needed this, now I can do blah blah blah. It's like, God, I fucking hate Christmas. Sorry. Grinch.
Out of the ordinary, and is probably reminiscent of so many other home videos out there of friends and family members timidly opening up their presents, except for one overshadowing detail, with that being who these men actually are. Before this video was taken, both Vaughn and Edward had served time in prison, Edward for arson and Taylor for aggravated burglary, and upon their release it was hoped that the two were now reformed and would be able to live more lawful lives, which could not have been further from the truth. Almost immediately upon being released, Vaughn would call one of his friends to tell them that both he and Edward had plans to go into the mountains and, quote-unquote, shoot some people. And from there, they set off into the wilderness of Oakley, Utah.
Don't go and shoot people.
On their expedition, the two stumbled across various cabins where they would break in and either camp out for a while or just completely ransack the place, as in most cases, the owners of these cabins were long gone for the winter due to the inclement weather of the area. Though this wasn't true for everyone, as during the same time, the Tita family, consisting of Father Rolf, his wife Kay, and their two children, Lene and Trish, along with their 76-year-old grandmother, Beth.
Holy shit, that looks exactly like Eloise Hawking in Lost. Oh my god, that looks exactly like that shit. Hold on, I have to find a picture. Hawking in Lost. Holy shit. That looks exactly like her. Holy shit. I'm sorry. That's so fucking weird.
Potts, had been staying in their cabin to celebrate Christmas together. And so on the morning of the 22nd, the family would go into nearby Salt Lake City to finish off the last of their Christmas shopping, leaving the cabin unattended at the exact same time that Vaughn and Edward happened to be strolling through the area. Upon breaking in, the two quickly recognized that whoever was living there had only just momentarily stepped away and would be returning at the very latest by Christmas, as evidenced by the gifts sitting under the tree.
It's not great.
And finding their first real opportunity to carry out their intended goal of murder, the two hunkered down and waited for the family to arrive back home. While hiding out, it's unknown what exactly the two had done to pass the time, except for a brief few minutes in which Edward would pick up the family's VHS camera and record Vaughn as he tore into the family's gifts.
Oh. I thought they opened the gift and then went out. It's like, oh, let's open our gifts, then go murder people for... I don't know.
The added context makes this video all the more disturbing, as Vaughn was opening gifts belonging to the family that they were waiting to kill. And it's made all the more chilling when you notice that Vaughn is carrying a gun, along with the moment that he says Lene Tita's name as he reads it on the gift wrapping. And worst of all is that the gravity of the situation they were currently in clearly had no impact on these two men, as they were completely emotionless. And unsurprisingly, things only get darker from here, as after a few hours, Beth, Kay, and Lene would pull into the driveway.
God damn. Can you
Upon
imagine?
entering the house, the pair of men would immediately point their guns at the family and start making demands, to which Lene responded by praying to God that her and her family be spared, which was of no use, as Edward turned to her and claimed that her prayers wouldn't work, as he only worshipped the devil. And moments later, the two would grab her mother and grandmother and end their lives for no apparent reason.
God damn.
This left only 20-year-old Lene, who tried desperately to convince the men to leave, knowing in the back of her mind that her father Rolf and sister Trish would be arriving soon. But it was to no avail, as her pleading was interrupted by the sound of another snowmobile pulling into the driveway. Upon exiting their vehicle, both Trish and Rolf would be held at gunpoint, with Rolf being told to strip his clothes and give up all his money. Again, pleas were made to just take anything and leave them alone, but the two men remained unfazed. They wanted to cause pain and anguish to anyone and everyone, and nothing was going to stop them. And so, Vaughn pointed his gun at Rolf and pulled the trigger, striking the man in the face before delivering one final blow to the back of his head, leaving just the two daughters. Having thoroughly decimated what just an hour before was a happy, healthy family.
Can you imagine, like, going to the store to fucking, I don't know, pick up, like, turkey and cheese for a sandwich or something like that, and then coming home and being told to strip, get naked, and then be murdered? Like, can't even imagine that. And then of course in Dallas, who's that oh shit, I can't remember that cop that like was super tired. It was Amber something, not Amber Heard, but she just like barged into this dude. He was eating some ice cream and fucking shot him because she thought that he was going into into her apartment, but she was on the wrong level, and it was that was super fucked up. The dude was just like chilling in front of the TV, like eating a goddamn bowl of ice cream. And then, oh, you're murdered. Like, God, it's awful.
Vaughn and Edward would cover Rolf and the cabin in gasoline and set them on fire, before hijacking the snowmobiles with the two remaining daughters and driving away down the hill to a nearby road. However, they weren't alone. On their way out, the kidnappers and their victims would notice a man waving to them in the distance, with the individual being
Amber Geiger was her name.
Randy Zorn, their uncle, who recognized the two girls and attempted to flag them down. However, knowing that had they acknowledged their relationship, it would almost certainly get the man killed, they chose to ignore him and told the kidnappers that they had no idea who he was. Sensing something was off, Randy would follow the group down the mountain, where the men were now loading into the family's car, He waved to them once more, this time yelling at the group to stop and even running after them. But again, the girls pretended not to know them, sacrificing a chance at being saved in order to protect their uncle.
Shit.
Confused by this bizarre encounter and apparent urgency from the girls, Randy began to fear that something bad had happened at the family cabin, which was only confirmed when he heard another snowmobile tearing down the mountain. On it was a barely clothed Rolf, who despite being shot in the head twice, set on fire, and his eyes being almost completely swollen shut, was somehow alive. And
holy shit, motherfucker took 2 bullets to the head and was set on fire and is still alive, going to save his kids? God damn. Okay. All right.
Managed to get on a snowmobile to find help, and it was there that he told Randy, "I've been shot, my wife has been killed, and my daughters have been kidnapped." Something that most likely saved the lives of those 2 girls, as the police were contacted and were able to quickly track down the vehicle, where the kidnappers would accidentally run it right off the road, flipping it over multiple times before crashing into a ravine. Quite shockingly, no one would be badly injured in the wreck, and following a brief shootout, Vaughn and Edward gave in and were swiftly arrested, bringing this whole nightmare to an end.
Should have shot them right then and there.
The dust eventually settled. Edward would end up receiving life in prison, while Vaughn, the man shown here opening the family's gifts, was sentenced to death.
Good.
With both men
the other guy should have been
visibly shocked at the sight of Rolf when he showed up to court to testify against them. Rolf would later go on to make a full recovery, which definitely ends the story off on an empowering note. Though the carnage left behind by these 2 men in the moments following this video make it undoubtedly one of the darkest on the site.
Holy shit. Twice. Shot in the fucking head twice. Full recovery. Despite the case happening back in '90, Vaughn Taylor remains alive to this very day. Fuck that dude.
Before we get into our next case, I want to first thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video and for
I'm gonna watch this because
therapy now more than ever, just due to
I'm reacting to his thing, so
the general pressure
I think it's only right
on the site. So for me, therapy isn't just a want, but in many cases it's a need. But the problem is finding a therapist is extremely hard, and that's why I love what BetterHelp is doing, as they're making these important services more accessible and easier to get into. BetterHelp is an online platform, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, you'll get matched with a professional therapist who you can then communicate with by video, phone, or even text message. This is something that I really prefer, as being able to talk to a therapist right here at home makes it so much easier to open up as opposed to going to some new unknown environment. And also for me, these at-home therapy appointments actually helped me get back into therapy, as getting started was super easy and low pressure. And notably, if you're not really connecting with a therapist you've been matched with, which is a common thing in the world of therapy, BetterHelp makes it very easy for you to switch at literally no cost without having to worry about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. So if this sounds like something that may be beneficial to you, which honestly, who among us couldn't benefit from some therapy, you can get 10% off your first month by going to betterhelp.com/Nick Crowley, which I've also linked down below in the description. Alright, back to the video.
Hooray! It's always in black and white.
I gotta keep watching the southwest side. It's where most of them come from.
Chapter 3. I nearly died. Hey, I've nearly died plenty of times.
Weather like this, but there's always a chance.
Bet it didn't take.
The day was already off to a terrifying start, as hail began to fall from the sky and the sun became completely concealed by the dark clouds forming overhead. This was nothing out of the ordinary for the area, though, as Joplin, Missouri is and has been notorious for its consistent threat of massive tornadoes.
That looks like where I went to school.
Despite the fear of an impending tornado looming
College,
in the area,
anyway.
Many just continued about their normal lives, including a select few who even showed up for school, like Will Norton. The then 16-year-old had been attending Joplin High School.
That guy looks like the quintessential Minecraft YouTuber. I feel
which he was headed for that very day to attend an early morning tennis practice, only to be met by those extreme conditions, with Will later going on to describe the harrowing events of that day in a YouTube video titled I Nearly Died.
He's a YouTuber.
So I get ready really fast and I rush to school, out the door, and then I'm leaving for school and there is just tons of rain and the wind is so crazy. You just see water. It's like horizontal.
He's in Mississippi, they said, I guess.
Bro, I drive a Hummer. This should not be happening. Anyway, I made it.
He drives a Hummer?
And I think I'm just gonna go take a nap for the rest of my life because I didn't die. Oh my gosh, I'm done.
The video was posted to his YouTube channel called Wildebeest88883333, where he had found genuine success in the early days of YouTube, becoming a pioneer on what was then a brand new space, long before YouTubers were ever actually a thing. But throughout his entire channel, this upload was by far the most chilling, not just due to the brush with death he experienced that day, but because of the events that would unfold just 2 years following its release. The date was May 2nd, 2011, but for students
it seems like some kind of
they simply referred to
Final
it as
Destination
Graduation
shit.
Day, the day in which Will and his classmates would walk the stage into the next chapter of their lives. It was an event that Will and his family watched excitedly from the crowd, before the moment was interrupted by the ringing of a tornado siren.
Shit.
These sirens lasted only around 30 seconds, leaving many unfazed as they were practically a daily routine in the area, given just how common severe weather was.
Same here in Texas.
With no further alerts coming through their phones, aside from a standard warning, letting them know that conditions were ripe for a tornado, things continued on as normal from there. With the rain now starting to fall, Will's sister, Sarah, along with their mother and grandmother, chose to hop in the car and head home in order to get a head start on preparation for the night's graduation party.
They're like,
Will
fuck
and his
it.
father
Tornado.
around 20 minutes behind, with Will driving the two home in his beloved Hummer, which he had mentioned often across his channel.
What?
And with that, the
high
family was split
schooler
up into
fucking
two
drives a
cars,
goddamn
one that at this
Hummer?
point was almost
Really?
home, and another
Really?
that was just beginning their route. Which is when things began to get more worrisome. Suddenly, the rain fell even harder, and the winds began blowing horizontally, to the point that trees were starting to bend over and eventually break due to the strain. Recognizing the worsening conditions, Mark would call Sarah, who had just arrived at home, to ask her to open the garage for them so they can pull right in and avoid having to get out in this worsening weather. A request that couldn't be completed, as right after their phone call, the power would suddenly shut off, rendering the door impossible to open.
Shouldn't you be able to open it
Sarah
anyway?
called back with the update to let the two know that they would likely have to park outside and make a run for it through the front door. Though by this point, the sound of wind was nearly deafening over the phone, and despite repeatedly asking, "Dad, where are you?" all she could hear was wind, until the sound was broken by her father yelling, "Will, pull over. There's the tornado. Pull over."
Oh shit. That's not good.
From the KSN Storm Center, this is a severe weather alert.
Good evening. We've got some information on this storm. Let's go ahead and go to the Freeman First Alert Doppler radar. Weather spotters in Galena are reporting now sightings of funnel clouds going off in Joplin. Those are definitely power flashes that we are seeing on the ground.
Have a tornado on the ground?
This is a tornado. Yeah,
that's
a
a
very dangerous
big
situation.
fucking tornado.
We cannot stress this enough. If you are in Joplin, please take cover. No, it is certainly going off. Caitlin, I'm just looking out the door right now. Please do not go outside.
God damn.
Towering in front of Will and his father was a massive 1 mile wide tornado.
Shit, like an
with its
F5?
winds gusting around 250 miles per hour. It was an EF5,
Joplin?
the highest ranking a tornado can achieve. And now, Will and Mark were directly in its path. Suddenly, all Sarah could hear over the phone was the sound of crashing and destruction. Before...
That's it. It's done.
The call would be dropped. In that very moment, the tornado would come in direct contact with the Hummer, causing it to flip in the air multiple times. And despite Mark desperately holding on to his son, Will would slip through his father's arms and be sucked out of the car's sunroof.
Shit.
Somehow, Mark would manage to survive the direct hit of the tornado, but so many others were not as lucky, as the disaster would leave a staggering 158 people dead, including
I think I remember hearing
who,
about
despite
that.
being missing
Damn,
4 days,
kid died.
would be found at the bottom of a nearby pond days later. The story alone is incredibly grim, but it's made all the more disturbing by the video posted 2 years before, which now features so many chilling moments of foreshadowing.
Wow.
Pull over into the big puddles, and I was like, ah. Keep in mind, I drive a Hummer, so really I shouldn't have any reason to be scared. Anyway, I made it safely home, and I think I'm just gonna go take a nap for the rest of my life. I'm done. I am done. I'm never driving in weather again, ever. Bye, guys.
But although this certainly classifies as one of the darker videos on the site, the Norton family has turned this tragedy into something positive and celebrates his life as opposed to focusing on his tragic passing, with Sarah herself even bravely coming forward and releasing a video outlining her entire story of that day.
He's in a good place. It's just hard on us who are left here dealing with all of it, but it's okay. He's just in the best place ever. So
that's...
yeah.
I'll hold my tongue.
He wouldn't want us to be sad.
It's fucked up.
Time is getting closer and closer. The seconds are
God damn it.
ticking. Excitement is building.
Chapter 4. Goodbye, Santika.
It was said to be the party of the year, a celebration to say goodbye to 2008 and hello to a brand new promising year. It was New Year's Eve, the day where everyone is looking for a fun party to attend. And in Bangkok, Thailand, the Santika Club was the place to be. The event was dubbed Goodbye Santika, hitting on the theme of leaving the past behind and starting fresh in this new year. And in preparation, promotional commercials would be shot and aired all throughout the region, building up even more hype for the much anticipated event.
Goodbye, Santika.
Santika.
It promised to be their best show yet, with live music from numerous well-known artists and, of course, lots and lots of alcohol. And sure enough, as New Year's Eve rolled around, this hype would translate into a large crowd swarming the doors to be part of this special occasion. And as the clock ticked closer and closer to midnight,
where this is going.
The crowd only continued to grow, with it being estimated that as many as 1,000 people were in attendance. At this point, very few videos exist from this night, though in the time since, 3 key clips have come forward that piece together the events which transpired once the crowd had gathered. At 11:44 p.m., with the big day only minutes away, this video was taken up close to the stage, showing not only the high energy of the night, but also the massive people crammed into this venue.
What's gonna happen? Collapse? Venue collapse? I'm sorry, I keep hitting that mic.
It truly was the place to be, the kind of party that so many would have loved to be part of. But this wasn't even the main event. Midnight was fast approaching, and the owner of the club had promised a spectacle that the city would never forget. And so an idea was hatched, to give patrons sparklers which would be lit and used during the countdown.
Oh fuck, no. 1,000 people with sparklers? What do you think? Really, nobody putting this on thought, let's give out sparklers to like nearly 1,000 people. I'm sure all of them didn't get it, but you get my drift. Like, really? Really? That's so stupid.
The camera shuts off after first showing a happy couple celebrating together, and then panning to the stage, where the performers were hyping up the crowd even more, and launching pyrotechnics of their own into the air, adding to the explosive atmosphere within the club. And finally, we have our third and final video. This one having taken place just a few minutes following the cell phone footage.
Like inside
Only this time,
somewhere?
The cameraman was outside of the venue.
So it was like a closed-in area. Yeah, everyone knows where this is going. Yeah, of course. So it looks like it was like kind of open air, but like inside, but
no one really knows how it started. Perhaps it was the fireworks launched indoors as part of the performance, or maybe it was the countless sparklers handed out to a sea of drunken people, or potentially it was a combination.
Yeah, they're drunk too.
Both. But regardless, somehow a blaze had erupted, quickly spreading to the club's ceiling, where the crowd would actually cheer it on. mistakenly believing that it was part of the event,
That
as
is
at that same exact time, a band just so happened to be performing by the name of Burn.
Wow.
By this point,
Holy
the
shit.
performers knew immediately that the fire was unplanned and that an emergency was brewing, and so they slipped off the stage and out the
Holy
back exit,
shit.
with no guidance being given to the 1,000+ people in the venue, none of whom had realized the danger they were truly in, until
they did.
the power would shut down, with the inside falling pitch black and silent, save for the crackling of the spreading fire, illuminating the area to avoid, but not the area to run to. And suddenly, panic-driven chaos ensued. There were multiple exits, but just too many people, too much darkness, too much smoke. And in the matter of just a few minutes, the fire had consumed every inch of safety within that building. The tales told from within that event are horrid, with some of the most disturbing being not about the crush of humans surging towards the exit, or the unstoppable blaze moving at lightning speed, but instead, about a chandelier.
God, what did it fall and like electrocute everyone?
In the video preceding the disaster, we see briefly through the low-quality imagery a chandelier, the club's crown jewel, measuring in at a whopping 10 meters in diameter and weighing over a ton. And while the fire began to spread to the ceiling, it came in contact with the base of this massive artifact, causing it to heat up and eventually snap from its supports, landing atop of the crowd below and taking the lives of multiple people.
Yeah, you get hit on that. If it's over like a ton,
the catastrophe and the carnage was fully revealed, it would be announced that 67 people had lost their lives that day, with countless others being burned and permanently disfigured, leading to the club owner being jailed for 3 years.
I'm not gonna lie, like 67 people is far less than what I thought would have noped out, as it were.
Despite the true cause still being debated to this day, the video from directly beforehand shows just how lax the safety measures were, as even if they weren't the direct cause, giving sparklers to 1,000 drunken people indoors.
I'm sorry, I should not laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but that's so fucked up. It's
and
like,
in the end, the party truly did live up to its name.
Gallows humor or something.
Santika, as the club was burned past the point of recognition, and now sits as dark as the videos surrounding it.
That's so fucked up. The saxophones are marrying violins? Is that some sort of like, well, I would say bestiality, but that's not it. Musicality? That's a different word completely. I don't know what to call this. Phonicality? Come, little rabbit.
Our final video is probably one of the most unusual cases that I've come across in quite some time, with that being the story of Akmal Sheikh. Born in Pakistan in 1956, Sheikh had spent the majority of his life unnoticed, spending his days mainly outside of the gaze of the public eye, though that didn't mean his life was uneventful by any means. Over the years, Sheikh would move from country to country, starting numerous new businesses, like in the 80s when he moved to the US to become a real estate agent, and then in the 90s
I wish I had that,
to London
like,
to start
ability.
a cab business. With the only problem being that none of these ventures ever really stuck, causing him to live in a state of poverty, even at one point going bankrupt following the decline of his cab business. And his failures didn't stop there, as in 2003, Sheikh would be accused of sexual harassment and unfair dismissal of a 24-year-old employee, resulting in his wife taking his kids and filing for a divorce, which would be far from his last legal struggle.
Like, is the pussy that good? Like, really that good?
In 2005, Sheikh was placed under official investigation following the London bombings, as he was caught sending a text to his friends stating, "Now everyone will understand who Muslims are and what jihad is," while at the same time being accused of threatening his ex-wife.
Jihad anyway.
Now none of these claims ever led to any official charges, though he would be arrested just months later for driving under the influence. As you can see,
I said I wanted to be like this guy, and that was like the ability to move around and make businesses. All the other shit, I'm regretting immediately. Yeah.
Sheikh's life was a roller coaster, and at this point he was on his largest drop yet, disgraced and living off of handouts and eating out of soup kitchens nearly every night, until the year 2007, when his life would change forever. During
100%.
a public demonstration that year, Sheikh would be introduced to a man named Gareth Saunders, a musician who had ties all throughout the music industry, including with numerous recording studios in the area.
We should make a song.
During this chance meeting that Sheikh's life purpose would be discovered. At some point prior, Sheikh, a man with no musical experience whatsoever, had written a song called "Come Little Rabbit," which he believed would propel him to worldwide stardom. But it went even deeper than that, as Sheikh was so sure that not only would the song break records and become a global phenomena, but also that it would bring the world together and usher in a new era of peace on Earth. In a sense, he believed that this song could truly save the world. And with this,
I think a song like that, if I had to pick one song, I would probably say "We Are the World," the older 80s version.
in mind, he began to beg his new acquaintance to help him record the song in a studio, a request that Gareth eventually seemed to accept, as that very same year, "Come Little Rabbit" would be recorded and released to the public.
Come little rabbit, come to me. Come little rabbit, let it be. Come little rabbit, come and bring.
Is he drunk? The mixing on that is awful. I'm sorry, it just is. I'm not saying I'm the best musician ever, but
as you can probably tell,
the mixing on the bass
things are going so far. The song did not perform as intended, and sadly the world did not come together in harmony upon its release.
Shocking.
Because the song just wasn't very good. The sad reality of the situation was that Akmal Sheikh was a very mentally unwell man, and these big dreams that he had throughout his life were, in most cases, more so delusions. And though we don't know for sure what exactly he was suffering from, many close to him described his behavior as being on par with severe bipolar disorder.
Yeah,
and Come Little Rabbit was the
depressive
example of his struggling mental state, representing a point in which he detached his furthest from reality. And sadly, it was this very song that would drive his life to an even lower point. As the world continued on with its usual chaos after the release of Come Little Rabbit, Sheikh still believed that it could provide peace on Earth, becoming convinced that the only reason it hadn't worked already was that no one knew who he was. But this was all.
Yeah, that's like me saying my YouTube channel is going to grow into a massive audience. Delusions of grandeur.
All going to change after he received an opportunity that would shift the course of his life. Around the same time, Sheikh was introduced to a man named Akmal, who had just the opportunity waiting for him. By pure chance, a once-in-a-lifetime performance had opened up in one of China's biggest nightclubs, that just so happened to be owned by Akmal, and supposedly being impressed by Come Little Rabbit, Akmal decided he was going to fly Sheikh out to China to fill that slot and perform in front of thousands.
Really?
And so on September 12th, 2007, Akmal would be flown to China free of charge to make his dream a reality.
Trip to China?
But before leaving, Sheikh was given a single suitcase by Akmal, which he was told to bring along with him to their destination, since due to a scheduling conflict, Akmal had to grab a later flight, leaving Akmal all on his own. By all accounts, the flight there went smoothly, though trouble quickly arose when the plane touched down.
I don't know if I would ever wanted to go to China, or ever would want to go.
Sheikh didn't speak the language, and so once released at the gate, the man had no idea where to go and was unable to communicate with anyone, leading to him pacing around nervously and acting slightly erratic, which didn't go unnoticed by airport security. They watched the man's behavior deteriorate for several minutes before ultimately making the decision to detain him and search his belongings, believing that surely he was up to something suspicious. Which is when they'd open that very bag given to Akmal by Akmal, only to discover a staggering 4 kilograms of heroin.
Oh, shit.
The discovery sent Sheikh into a panic, as he was completely unaware that he was transporting illegal contents, because the bag didn't even belong to him, stating adamantly that it belonged to his friend Akmal, who was flying in on the next flight and would be there soon to help clear things up. And so surprisingly, security seemed to believe him, as they all sat waiting for Akmal to step off the next plane and set the entire situation straight. Though he never did.
God damn,
in reality,
he was set
Sheikh
up.
had been tricked into becoming a drug mule, taken
Holy
advantage
shit.
of with his mental illness used against him, to make him commit a crime he had nothing to do with. There was never any club and there was never any performance. It was all just a ruse. And despite the authorities' willingness to wait for the man at first, their patience soon wore thin, and Sheikh was arrested for drug smuggling, with his punishment being death.
That is
a British
super
man
fucked up,
convicted of
actually.
Drug smuggling in China has now been told of his fate.
That guy clearly, like, he wasn't like a good guy, but who among us are, but that is fucking awful shit.
Akmal Sheikh will be executed by firing squad within 24 hours
For
unless the
drugs,
Chinese
though.
authorities have mercy on him. His family says he has a history of mental illness and may have been duped into smuggling drugs by traffickers.
The decision was extremely controversial all across the world, with the backlash leading to
I never
the case
heard
being
about
heard for a
this.
second time in 2009. And despite numerous requests by Sheikh's lawyer to have the man undergo a mental evaluation, as he had been quite clearly taken advantage of, they were rejected, and the initial ruling was upheld, with a date being set for his execution on the 29th of December. Following this shocking decision, the first and one of the only 4 recordings of Come Little Rabbit would be posted to YouTube, which featured not only the lyrics, but also the sad story of Sheikh along with it, including a call to the viewers to join the effort in stopping the impending execution, as part of a massive final push to change the minds of China's government.
This is some fucking nightmare fuel. There is no God but God. Sentence of death. Yeah. Super fucked up. Assuming it's true, like, do we know it's true?
December 29th, Akmal Sheikh would receive a lethal injection,
God
with China
damn.
supposedly walking back their plans to execute him via firing squad. Though either way, the man was dead, and his body would never be returned.
That's
Today,
super
the
fucked
video
up.
of Akmal's song and the pleas to save his life remain as a forgotten relic here on YouTube, encapsulating the story of a man whose desire to bring the world together in song was cruelly taken advantage of. And though it was peace that he was so desperately seeking, the song would only lead to his ultimate demise.
Wow. That is super fucked up. Boom. And I'm pretty sure Nick is detuning that. God damn, that is a heavy thing to take in. So yeah, that was Nick Crowley's Darkest Videos 5. Go watch him. Link will be in description below. And I will see y'all later.